All right, welcome back to Booked, the podcast that helps you get booked on more podcasts. I am Spencer Carpenter with Outlier Audio, here with my co-host,
Amanda Foley.
And this week, Amanda came to me with a topic that we want to dive into. So I'm going to pass it off to you. What is this topic?
So I've been thinking a lot about this of late, and as somebody that both books people on podcast and also vets incoming podcast requests, I've seen a lot of change over the last, I'd say, year or so in particular about the volume and quantity and, volume, that's the same thing, and quality of pitches that I've been receiving from my clients that I vet podcasts for. And it's really, and also as I also explore ways to become more scalable myself with some of the systems that are out there, I think it would be really valuable for us to talk, because I'm sure a lot of people are that are thinking about going on podcast are maybe overwhelmed with the different types of options out there that they could use, whether it's using a system, a VA booker, a podcast booking agency, or more bespoke strategists, is what I would call people like you and me. And, at what point are we moving away from what I would call a relationship model in podcast pitching, which I think is really important, especially in an area like this, to this sort of volume model that I think is flooding the market? What are the implications? What should people be thinking about? What are the pros and cons of the different types of options people have for getting on podcast? I guess it's kind of a broad, far-reaching topic, but I think it's really timely because I think we're all seeing it, and I think people are being bombarded with, get on podcast, get on 10 podcasts a month for $500 or whatever it is. And I'm not knocking that because I think there can be a place for that, but I also think that I've seen some really big names in pitches that I've received from booking agencies where I'm like, I can't believe these people are are doing, are allowing these people to
that they're not working
reputation
with a more established group, if anybody.
And it is reputational at the end of the day. Because we're representing people.
Well, we know that there are different levels of podcast booking agent. There is platforms and automated systems that are just using AI to pitch en masse. There are using assistants or VAs, which can have mixed
Sometimes
results.
It's better. If they're an internal VA, I think it can be good because they understand the person's business at least, right?
At least in theory.
Yeah.
They at least understand the messaging. They still might not have any real an entrepreneurial bone in their body to actually
or understand the
business
space and
So there can be mixed results with a generic VA or generic assistant versus someone that's a little more competent. That sees their role in life as a support, which is very much how I see myself, is I support more talented people. And then there
You're just
are
talented in a different way.
Well, people that I think are going to make a bigger impact on
That's
the
what I
world
would say.
than me.
I don't have to be the face of anything. I'm happy to help those people get pushed to the front.
And then there are people like us that we're a little more specialized. And then there's even a tier above us, which is like $25K a month retainer.
I would say they're agencies,
full,
and that's a different
full PR.
That's a whole different ball game.
Those are the ones though those are when I look at our competition, there's only a handful that actually can say that they've booked people on Rogan, typically, and it's those companies.
Yeah, well, because they're because it's a corporate. There's a lot of corporate connections.
But anyway, so my take on it is I think that hosts should be trying to figure out two things. One, do you like finding guests yourself? And if you do, then you don't need to work with podcast booking agents. If you see podcast booking agents as someone that can help you either fill your void in bookings or bring you people that you did not know existed, then you should be trying to build that relationship with them. And I see a wide variety of tangents or venting from people on things like LinkedIn about how podcast booking has come about the last few years. But, I come from the music industry where it was very normal for a booking agent to say, this band is going out on tour in May of next year. We're looking for 1 to 2 support acts that can bring in 400 people to the show. Submit your acts. Nobody got offended that they didn't directly reach out to us asking what bands we have.
Right.
And when a tour booking agent reached out to a venue, the thing they have to do is make sure the venue covers that type of music and is appropriately sized. But beyond that, it's usually, we're looking for holds for these 10 days. We're not sure which day yet. We will be in touch with you, but tell us if you have availability these 10 days. No one got pissed off about it.
Right.
But what I see in the podcast space is the framing I see from hosts is, these people know nothing about me. They know nothing about my show. They've made no effort. And I just think if that is the way you feel, then work on the relationship with the podcast booking agents you want to, so they know exactly what you.
I think the challenge there, though, is that the podcast booking agents that they want to work with don't always have all the guests, right? So, like, that's the challenge. The other thing I'll say is that I hear you on all of it. I think the difference between, and I know, like, it's no analogy is perfect, but the difference with a podcaster versus, like, maybe these venues is that it would almost be like inviting those acts into your house to perform versus, like, you know what I'm saying? So, like, for these podcasters, it's so personal.
Right.
I think that they take offense because it's like something that they have literally built themselves, right? Where these venues are not necessarily like, it's not as much of a personal thing. I mean, maybe in some cases it is, but I think with podcasters, like, they've worked so hard to nurture that audience that they take offense. The third thing I'll say is that I really believe that the glut of pitches out there and this, like, explosion and everybody, you know, trying to get people on podcasts, whether it's themselves. I mean, I feel like we've been out there probably before the explosion, but I think it's even made it in some ways more challenging. And in some ways it's great for us because it makes us look really good when we send a good pitch.
Sure.
But I think that has actually, and I will tell you just from the sheer volume increase that I have seen in getting guest emails for 2 shows, it is insane the way that it is, like, blown up. And I think what happens with a lot of the AI systems is once you sort of get in their loop, I won't name the AI system.
Sure.
Because I do think there's value in it. We talk about that too, but, like, there's one that I think, but you have to use them in a certain way. But I get so many from them and I'm like, somehow I'm in this, like, loop of, so, I mean, honestly, I just pretty much, if I got a good pitch, I would say yes. I just immediately say no because I know that system tracks the declines. And then I think you sort of then get lowered in their algorithm of who they propose you to.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Well, I hear what you're saying about it's very personal to them. But I have a podcast booking agency. I also book for a show, and I have competitors send me pitches that I really don't think are that good.
Yeah.
But I also want their guests because I need it for our pipeline.
Yeah, because you're not going to be. I don't get mad at pitches.
I remove the emotion or the incentive to help them.
But it's
not
also
deliver.
it's not your show. Here's what I think. It's funny. You asked me this question before, and I didn't have this answer, but it came to me while we were talking. You know what I think hosts could do, and the hosts that do this, I find this very helpful. When I get an autoresponder email from a host that tells me either they're not booking, they're full, they've recorded all their episodes for the year, they're not looking for something. And I think, like, that is something that hosts could do that I think is really, really helpful, is to have an auto reply if they know they're getting a ton of pitches that says, I mean, they usually will have a bunch of things, like if you're reaching out for this, if you're reaching out for this.
Or big shows definitely
They
usually
do
set
that. And
up.
I think that is very helpful because I think the more information we have, the better we can, right? We're here to accommodate these hosts at the end of the day.
Yeah, well, that's it.
We're not trying to piss them off.
What I'm looking for is help me help you.
Yeah.
If you want my help.
Right.
But I was telling you, when I first started this business, I did reach out to 100 shows. And maybe I just reached out to the wrong 100 shows because they were the biggest I could find originally or mid-size. But I said, could I get on the phone with you for 5 minutes just to introduce myself and learn what it is you're looking for? 1 out of 100 responded, and he responded saying, listen to the show.
And I know.
I don't think that's obviously, if you listen to shows, you can figure something out. But just because I heard the last 10 episodes doesn't mean I heard all the criteria you're looking for. And I
But you know what it is? I don't think they know. If I'm being complete, and when I say that, it's not because they don't understand their show, but I think sometimes you could get 100 pitches and there might be that one that you're like, oh yeah, like I really want this. And I think for them to try to crystallize that in like a sentence or two, either, I don't want to say it's laziness, but sometimes like if someone said to me, like, what kind of client do you like? Like I could tell you what kind of client I like to work with.
Answer.
Right. But it would be really hard because I'm like, well, but I can't say that this type of a client wouldn't come in and I wouldn't be really excited about it. Right. So I think sometimes, you know, at the end of the day, I literally, like Spencer, I've sent amazing pitches to certain shows where the host has replied to me, unsubscribe, or like something like really snarky or whatever. And that's fine. I will never pitch again.
I've had that too. From him.
Isn't that funny? So I'm like, I
now know the producer, so I can go to him.
It's so funny. Oh my God, I'm going to get that email. Because I do think like I could have really good, you know, and it probably because I could only find his email address. You know, what we're out there doing is trial and error, I think, in so many ways.
Sure.
And I think there is no standard. There's no exact right answer. But like what I'll come back to, which I think would be of value to our listeners, is that like, you know, what should you be paying attention to if you decide to work with somebody externally to help you get on podcasts. You know, we'll have an episode out that talks about what a good pitch should look like. So if people's VAs are pitching them or assistants or, you know, people on their teams, that will give them a great idea of what to do. I will say, like, if you're going to use a system, because I think there's a particular system out there, which I mean, I'll be honest and say I have a subscription to because I use it in a very specific way for certain clients.
Right.
But it can be really tempting to spend a couple $100 a month and have a pitching engine going on. The problem is that they have a great engine and by engine, I don't mean their writing engine, but in terms of like, I can feed in my media lists to it. Mm-hmm. I can set the timing. I can feed in my pitches and it just runs for me. So it saves me from either having to hire somebody or be like, oh, is it follow-up day? Because it just automates a lot of things for me. So there is value, but I would never use their AI pitching.
Right.
Never.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm telling you, like, I can identify clearly. And there was one day a week or two ago where I got 6 in one day. I could tell you exactly where it came from. And I'm like, this is people are throwing, now at least they're only throwing $200 or $300 a month out the window.
Right.
I also have had pitches from booking agencies where they pitch me and then drop the ball on scheduling, which is an inconvenience for my client. And then I have the guests team like reading us the riot act. And I'm like, maybe you should look at your booking agency.
Right.
I've gotten mass spam pitches with the wrong names from, and they're coming from a human. I can tell they're not AI, but you know, pitches that don't fit the show at all. And so I think the thing is, and not that any of us are perfect. I have definitely sent out a sloppy pitch because I was moving too quickly, or, you know, I'm not going to pretend. Sure. However, I know that I'm looking at pretty much every single pitch that goes out and the show that it goes out to. And I can pretty much guarantee that I'm not going to embarrass my client.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and if I do embarrass myself, I apologize, and they're usually
right. And then cool maybe you call somebody the wrong name, or I misspelled people's names because I was moving. And I do. But that's human.
Sure.
It's not. That's different than spray and pray.
Yeah. I just then. Well, going back to what you said, is you feel maybe the host doesn't know what their avatar is.
Some do, but I think in a lot of cases, like they maybe feel put on the spot by that question. So
then what I feel is then they need to figure it out. And that could be to work with someone like us and develop that relationship, or to deliver that snarky response to the VA.
Or to like share it more broadly.
Do you even know what we look for? This is what we look for.
Put it in your show. I mean, they could put it in the show description. But I don't want to put it on the host, though, because I ultimately feel like I get what you're saying. But
if they want to work with people,
help us. Yeah.
It's not to help us. It's to help us help them.
I think, right, exactly. And I think the problem is that there's so many shows, there's so many bookers, there's so many, I think it's like, it probably feels overwhelming, right? Sure. So if they feel like it's a drop in the bucket, or they feel like they could tell you or I what they want in a guest, but it's not going to stop the 30 other pitches they get
Sure.
that week.
I just feel if you're going to get angry about it, help us do something.
Yeah, I don't
And-
disagree.
and-
But they're just angry people.
Sure. Well,
They're
well,
probably not
I mean,
gonna
and
ever change.
I had like here's why I think this is important. I have been spot on with my guests before. And the host said, there's a real estate person. He was firmly an engineer. He had the golden handcuffs and got into real estate to get out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And the host said, we can have him on, but we need to wait 6 months because our last 3 guests were engineers. There's no amount of research
Yeah, that you
I
could have done. But they weren't mad about it, were they?
No. But
they told you that, which is nice.
That's just goes to show we, no matter how much research we have, can never know what is going on in their mind.
I agree.
And
or behind the
additionally-
scenes, like I don't know if they're done recording for their season,
That-
or I don't know. Like we don't have any insight.
Additionally, especially if we're working with a more established show that maybe does have a backlog, we could be looking at all the right information, but they're done recording episodes on that topic.
Mm-hmm.
And they're pivoting for the next 6 months to something else.
Yeah, I agree. Or they're changing direction for the show. But what I'll say is this. I mean, like for people like us, that's helpful. But for people that probably are listening to us, what they care about is what can they do to not piss these people off and get the right information in front of them, or how do they make a decision about what is the best approach for them in terms of working with somebody.
Yeah, I see this on LinkedIn a lot, and it's just
I do too. I comment whenever I see somebody like someone complaining about it, for sure.
Yeah, and just I think that there are steps that both sides can take because again, when I refer to stuff in music, there's precedent set. Mm-hmm. The music industry has been around for a long time, and when things change, people adapt. Podcast industry has not, and podcast booking has been around even less.
Yeah.
So we are still working through what is the norm.
Right, because there's no like standardization.
acceptable.
There's no standardization for. And
And
the thing is, I think
all of the people that are starting these agencies, few of them worked for one agency and then pivoted.
Well, then they go to
starting
another. Yeah.
They usually worked in a different industry that crossed over and found this. So we have a variety of agencies. Let's just say a dozen legitimate agencies.
Yeah.
That all have different perspectives on this,
Mm-hmm.
which means that the norms are still not set. And so that's why I say, if you want to work with agents, then set the criteria you want and let
Mm-hmm.
us know so that we can build a foundation of not pissing you off.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I guess this doesn't bother me quite as much as it does you, because what I have found is like you're going to get the asshole responses unsubscribe, right?
Well, that's just it. I can put things aside, but I really internalize.
But I also, what I was going to say though,
the asshole response.
but my point is that you would have to even, not that I'm saying anything is impossible, Spencer, but like you would have to get so many people, so many podcasters to agree to do this. I guess I see it more like, so I had a client.
I will say, I'm hoping that industry people listen to this. So
yeah, maybe. I mean, like, but what are they going to do? Because they're not going to force anybody. I mean, you might see. I think you could get
your autoresponder and say, "Hey, if you're pitching for the show, here are the 4 things we're looking for."
But see, I think some people will do that, and some people never will do that. I just think some people are going to be like, "Well, it's not my job to tell you," right? And like that's like, I don't know. It's like why I left corporate. I mean, that I just think there's always going to be that subset of people. I look at it this way. Like I had my client on Almost 30 2 weeks ago, right? Like one of the biggest personal development podcast out there, like been around forever. Very exciting for me. I got to go to New York and meet Lindsay Simzik. But what I'll say is this: like the producer after the interview, they had sent us to the wrong studio, and then we had to go uptown. It was fine, and I was like, "Thank you so much. This went really well." Lindsay mentioned wanting to do a part 2 with Elizabeth in the fall.
Nice.
And, I was like, thank you so much. And she's like, you were a pleasure to work with. If you have any other guests you want to propose, please send them my way.
Nice.
And so to me, like, that's one example, right? But I have to pitch hundreds of more, thousands of podcasts to get, like what but
And you might have 1 in 20 clients that qualify to be on that show
right,
again.
exactly. And that's what it is. They're not all going to be a fit. However, what I'll say is this, like, I look at it, if I can build one, like 5 of those types of relationships in a year,
Yes.
with those bigger shows, that's going to lead to more. And so like, I guess I always look at what can I do, right? Like there's a lot of things we can't control, right? Which as much as we would love hosts to do all of these things and help us, I also get that if someone expected me to if someone came to me and was like, well, how does Emma select her guests for her show? I would be like, I'm not telling. I would probably do the same thing. So I guess maybe that's why I'm like a little bit more, not because I would be mean. I respond to every single pitch that comes in. I am nice about it. Even if like I'm busy and it's like, well, kindly pass. Thank you for reaching out. Like I respond because I know what it's like to be on the other side.
Yeah.
Even the crappy pitches, although don't get me wrong, like I have thought about coming up with a template response for people that I know that are sending me pitches from that particular AI system and being like, stop wasting your money or go write your own, pay someone to write your pitches for you. But I think that if we can show people the right way to do things and how to strategically pitch, and the fact that this is not, it's not really like it is an SEO play because you want to get your name out there. And like now I'm even seeing with clients I've shared with you before how they've risen in terms of the
rankings.
Yeah, the rankings based on what ChatGPT will come back with, based on podcast appearances. But it still has to be a relationship play, not a volume play. Yeah. And I think if there's a VA agency or a booking agency out there that's doing it in an aligned way, good for them. But I think there are more people out there taking thousands of dollars a month from people and just spraying pitches out to, like they figure, well, I have an automated system that sends 1,000 pitches out a month. I could get them 20 interviews, know? And like, I think that's the issue. And again, it comes back to, for me, it's reputational, because those podcasters that maybe even like are on the fence or getting that crappy pitch where you could be a fit for their audience, like they're going to see your name and associate it with like a really crappy pitch.
Yeah. Well, we'll wrap this episode up. We normally like to go over our takeaways, but this was more just for us.
Right.
So if you found this interesting, leave a comment or, and also appreciate any subscriptions, 5-star reviews and stuff like that. So thanks for listening to this episode of Book, the podcast that gets you booked on more podcasts. Again, I am co-host Spencer Carpenter with Outlier Audio, and I've been joined by
Amanda Foley, Curate Your Soul. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah. Have a good day.